Evolutionary psychologists have done a lot of work looking at societies around the world and seeing how labour is divided between the sexes in them. And they've noticed quite a bit of variation, of course, but actually striking patterns that are perhaps more striking than the variations. Now, there are some tasks that are pretty much uniformly done by men. For example, anything that's dangerous. So if a job is likely to kill you or maim you, you're probably a man doing it. So if you want people to be lumberjacks or miners or sailors or soldiers, then you get a guy to do it. And how do you get a guy to do a dangerous job? Easy, tell him it's manly. Another job that's done almost exclusively by women is looking after children, particularly small children. And I think it doesn't take a genius to work out why that is. But maybe something you haven't thought of is that there are hormones in the brain which reward people for doing stuff, and women get different rewards. So, for instance, if a woman is breastfeeding a child, she's getting a hormone hit that makes her feel great in her head. And some women actually get addicted to these hormone hits. But guys, given a bottle to feed to the kid, even if it's their own child, and they think, oh, isn't he cute, and they love the child, they're still not getting the hormone hit that their wives would be getting. So they don't enjoy the task as much. And it's difficult to persuade people to do stuff that they just don't enjoy very much. The kibbutz is an interesting experiment. In kibbutzes in Israel, they gave boys and girls absolutely identical treatment from day one, exactly the same education and so forth, and it was entirely up to those people when they grew older to choose what they wanted to do. And it was thought that this experiment would lead to both sexes doing almost all the tasks, and interestingly, the reverse happened. When people were given absolute perfect choice of what they ended up doing, they actually divided along sex lines more than in mainstream society, interestingly. So all the jobs that were dangerous, all the jobs that involved being outdoors an awful lot, heavy lifting and so forth, ended up being done by men. And all the people who ended up looking after kids and working in the library and so forth, they're all women. I mean, not all, but you know what I mean. It was a very, very strong, clear division along sex lines. Now, one of the reasons that men do dangerous things is that men are expendable. Yeah, sorry guys, but well, we are. If half the men in a tribe died, the tribe could bounce back. I mean, the remaining men could fertilise all the women. There'd be just as many kids the next generation. The population would bounce back. Everything would be fine. If a tribe lost half its women, it's not going to bounce back from that very quickly, is it? The next generation is going to be much smaller. And what if it lost half its women, but not half its men? So now there are loads more men. So half the men in the tribe now can't get a wife at all. Well, that's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? That's unrest and warfare and bloodshed and murder and nasty things. So losing your women is a much bigger blow for a society. So that's why women are the most valuable things in society. And that's why you don't, for instance, protect women using other women, because that doesn't make any sense. We must protect our women from some danger from outside. Okay, put the women in the front line with... Oh, no, that's not going to work, is it? No. People don't approve of women fighting in the front line, because if you're trying to protect the women in the society, which is what you should do for the good of society, then no, men do that because we can afford to lose loads of them. It doesn't matter. They're just men. They're replaceable. They're expendable. They don't really matter so much. So that's one of the main reasons why men ended up doing an awful lot of dangerous stuff. Marriages. You could say, wait a minute. Though surely women didn't always get the choice of whom they married. Surely a lot of women had to marry that guy there because their family told them to. And yes, that's true. A lot of marriages were arranged, and a lot of women didn't get the choice of whom they married. But by exactly the same token, neither did the guys. Those women were marrying guys. So for the guy, it was just as an arranged a marriage as it was for the woman. So in fact, as for taking power out of the hands of women because these daughters are forcibly married off, because a daughter is a valuable thing. So if a family has this daughter, this resource, it can then marry that daughter off this resource to another family and use her as a valuable bit of treasure, as a pawn in the game. So taking power away from her, you could say, yeah, but she's still marrying a guy and the guy didn't choose her. So, is that not sort of, is the guy she marries, is he not sort of equally a victim of that control by others? I would suggest that perhaps he is. Now, people think of mistresses and so forth as powerless and wives as more powerful, but in fact, it seems that's not really the case. It's a bit counterintuitive, but I'll give you the example of George III. Now, George III was nice. He played the game properly. He loved his wife, he kept no mistresses, and he was a good, sound chap. And he disapproved of Georges I and II, who went before him, who had loads of mistresses is what I meant to say. I'm sure they had mysteries as well, but that's not to the point. And those mistresses became very powerful, and the women in court in general became, in George's I and II's time, very, very powerful. Because think of it, a mistress has the ear of the king, direct line to the king. So if I want a royal commission for this thing this project I have in mind, but I don't have access to the king. Maybe I have access to that woman who knows that woman, and she's a mistress of the king. So if I'm really nice to her, then maybe she'll pass the message to so-and-so. And the women in court got to know about what everybody wanted. And of course, that's power. Knowledge is power. Influence is power. They could then say, okay, right, well, maybe I will have a word with the king about this thing that you want. But what are you going to do for me? And they became very, very powerful. But in George III's time, when suddenly, no, I won't be keeping any mistresses. We'll have no people keeping mistresses in court. Thank you. None of that, said George III. Boom. Suddenly, the women at court had far less power because people weren't keeping mistresses. It's often thought that the keeping of mistresses is to the advantage of men. But actually, it seems it's mostly to the advantage of women. Lindybeige!